Hi. All right. So someone said to me, I don't know what's happening since we started dating. We've been having misunderstandings. I mean, this is not what I signed up for. What do you do when you start having misunderstandings in relationship? What is the purpose of that misunderstanding, and how do you deal with it? Right now, I'll tell you a little story. Growing up as a child, I used to love football a whole lot. In fact, I had this dream of being a professional footballer, right? So I actually signed up with some local football clubs. Trained. I started out as a striker. Yeah, don't look at me like that. Like, I'm serious. They used to call me Cluvet. For those of you who have football history, you know who Cluvet was, right? They used to call me Cluvet. Then from there, I changed club. I started playing in another club. Then I was moved as an attacking midfielder. I was playing the number 10. Then it used to be the traditional 4-4-2 system of play, right? Where you have 3-2-5-4. You have 3-2-5-6. Sorry, you have 4 and 10, right? 7 and 11, then 9 and 8, right? So I used to be the number 10. Then from there, I moved on to. So I'm just basically trying to tell you that I loved football so much, right? So what used to happen for me was all my shoes used to have scratches in front, right? Because once I'm walking on the road and I see a stone, I'll kick it. Yeah, I mean, you're talking to a brother that loves football, so if he sees, everything for me was an opportunity to train. So if I'm walking on the road and I see a stone, then I see two stones far in my head, that two stones, right, are they formed my goalpost. So one stone here, one stone here. I see something like this, so I'm kicking the stone to ensure that they fit in perfectly into the goalpost, so I can score. I don't know who was taking note actually, but that was just my way. Now, what the consequence of that, which on a different day we'll talk about the consequence of passion, right? Passion has a consequence. Sometimes you're passionate about something so much that you are you are seen as a weird person. You're entirely different from your society, and sometimes because we are trying so hard to fit in with people who are not headed at destination, we lose sight of what we are building, right? But there's a balance to it, right? You can't be so much into your dreams that you lose touch with your society, because at the end of the day, whatever God has given to you to be as a goal, as a gift, sorry, right? That is your vision for life, is still something that will profit the society. But you can't be so lost also in the society that you lose your uniqueness, because the reason why you are introduced into that system is to profit it with what you have that is different from the society, right? So like I said, someday we'll talk about the consequence of vision. Now, so the consequence of me loving football was that all my shoes were scratched in front, and no matter how much talk my parents drummed into my ears, it didn't stay for too long. Once I get outside with my shoes, I'm going to kick a stone. And majority of the times, the kind of shoes they got for me then were leather shoes, right? So once you kick, it begins to scratch, it begins to peel off, right? And the shoe begins to look rough in front, but the other side is actually very good, And bless our parents, they used to buy us big shoes that we grow into. So the first time you wear the shoe, the first few times you wear the shoe, you have to put stuffing something in front, so as you grow, your leg begins to grow into the shoes. So no matter how many scratch, the destiny of that shoe was supposed to stay. The time span of the shoe was actually a long one, so it wasn't a short-term thing. Now, but there's usually an exception, a period of time when I do not scratch the shoe. When I get a new one. When I get a new shoe, I will intentionally resist the urge, right, to kick a stone. Intentionally. So just in case I used to kick 10 stones on the road, because I have a new shoe, I most likely will just kick one. I know it's that thing with us when we get new stuff. When you get a new car, a new house, you don't want anybody to touch the wall. When you just paint, right, your house or your office or whatever it is, and especially when it's white, when anybody comes, you don't want them to touch it because it's sparkling. Give it some months, 2 months, 3 months. Sometimes it's not even as long as that, right? With the first thing, you just say, well, you are not as passionate as you were before, against people touching it here and there. It's the same thing most times with relationships. Yeah. When you're trying to win, right, the guy or the ladies, when you're trying to impress the guy, his mouth is smelling, you don't tell him, because most likely you don't want to offend him. He says something that you're not comfortable with. Sometimes you don't say anything, you just keep quiet. And even when you say it, you don't say it as firmly as you were supposed to. Why? Because you're still being careful. You're still in that new shoe face that I had with Stone. Eventually, the footballer in me came out. So by the time I wear that shoe like two times, on the third time, I'm kicking every stone. Why? Because the man that I was on the inside, or the boy that I was on the inside, is a footballer. And no matter how long I tried, to run away from that reality, eventually the new shoes would know that this is who I am. So now, one of the first reasons why you have a lot of misunderstandings, there are two principal things, right? One of the first reasons why you see a lot of misunderstandings after you have gotten your yes, or maybe now that you're married, is because you've actually gone past that new shoe phase, right? So I was telling a brother sometime just recently. I told the person, I said, the idea to intimacy is your partner being able to your partner staying around you and feeling like he or she is with himself, right? When there's no need to pretend, and for me, that's when relationship actually starts, right? When there's no need to pretend, when the person can comfortably fart around you. Yes, the person can fart around you, right? That's gross, right? But it's the truth. If I still have to take permission, I just say, excuse me, I walk out to fart. What? I don't want to say gross things, right? But I should be able to come into a space and perceive and say, this is my, you should be able to do that. This is my babe's fart. Babe, did you fart? And all of that, don't mind me, right? But I hope you're picking out something important, right? So the reason why most times it is after you've gotten your yes, or when you are now married, that the whole misunderstandings start coming in, is because you guys have gone past that new phase, that staged setting, where you want to impress the person and pretend. There's nothing wrong with impressing. You should continue doing that. But when you're doing that because you then you're pretending, you're suppressing who you are, right? Naturally, this is who you are. I heard of a story of a lady who, the church had been praying for, not the church I am now, I don't even know, but I got a story from a reliable source, right? How they were praying for her to get married and all of that. Then eventually a brother came to marry her. She was actually getting old already, right? So what happened? They were preparing for traditional wedding, and the brother gave, they needed to buy stuff for the trad. So what did he do? He took money. After they had written out the list of everything they wanted to buy, he counted money and gave her, say, take, go and buy everything we need so that we can have a successful trad. And that was all. The lady collected the money, looked at him, said, is it me you are sending to the market? Don't worry. By the time I come to your house, by the time I become your wife, I will show you my true colors. Now, listen. Even when the Lord has said, even when the Lord has said, when you hear something like that, pay attention to it. And I'm being serious, right? Pay attention. Don't just say you scratch it. No, that's someone telling you that the version you're seeing right now is not who she is. So immediately she said that thing. The guy said, said it's okay, don't be angry, don't be angry, just bring the money back. Say no, just bring the money. So he collected the money and told her marriage cancelled. That was the end of the marriage. They begged him, the church begged, he said no. right? And you know how when the lady is talking, they're hitting their leg on the ground. Say, don't worry. Okay. But what did he do? He sent you to the market to get something for the both of you, even if it was for him. There's nothing wrong with that, right? So that happened, and that was the end of the marriage. They didn't marry again. The guy moved on with his life. The lady kept on waiting. From when I heard the story, she had not gotten married yet, right? So back to what we're talking about, right? So the reason why that happened was the lady felt, for this season of our relationship, there are certain things I won't let out now until we are engaged. Listen, you don't have to do that. If the person is not, if you have to be around someone you have to pretend to be with, the person most likely is not supposed to be with you. That's a wrong relationship, because you can't pretend for too long. You pretend for so long a time, eventually the person that you are on the inside. You know, when I had those new shoes, they probably felt this guy is a gentle guy, he just walks around, so all the shoes will be intact. No. It's like the people who move from ladies to ladies, you know, and sometimes you see a guy who is a cheat, or a lady who cheats, right? And you feel you've heard the story from different persons, so but you feel when the person comes to be with me, it will be different. What gives you that assurance? You know, something that people have learned over the years takes time for them to let go. Takes time, right? So don't do that, right? You should be comfortable. Now, first and foremost, I'm not saying be comfortable and just work on yourself, be a better person. Right? Your motivation for being a better person should be about you. How would you want people to tell your story when they want to give a narrative of who you are? Right? A secular artist recently died, and I was watching, his funeral. Everybody that I heard speak about him said good things about him, that he was humble, he was down to earth, he was interested in people's life, he was always trying to ensure that people grow around him, he was always helping people. This thing is about you. Now, the truth is, his family would have benefited from that lifestyle that he had, right? First, I'm talking about the Sam Sultan, right? So his family must have benefited from the kind of lifestyle he lived. But if at the end of the day, it is him that has the credit for that name, it is him that has that credit. So the reason why you work on yourself is first because of you. Other people would now come and enjoy the benefit that you're already enjoying. And that's the way you should live your life. So I had to say that to underline something, right? So I was saying, don't do that. Don't be pretentious, right? Don't be like that lady who is saying, I will take this now, but once I get to your house, you will see I will change it for you. No. If you're not comfortable about something, say it, even whilst you guys are friends. Like I said, you don't have to shout, right? Because sometimes I think we lose sight of fixing an issue, and we transform it into having an issue with the person, right? You must understand that when there's an issue, the issue you are in love with this person, and I mean, this plays out for every relationship, right? You like this person, you're in love with this person, but you don't like this issue, you don't like this attitude, you don't like this character. So don't attack the person, attack the issue. And it takes a level of skill to do that, right? So let me give you an example. So someone who I'm trying to think of something, right? Somebody who talks too much and you don't like it. The person is your friend, right? There's a way you go about it. And you be like, if you go and meet the person and say, see, you talk too much, you are a talkative. You talk as in, this your mouth one day will get into trouble. Now, you're attacking the person, you're not attacking the issue. But how about you go, have you found out that it seems as if sometimes, you talk, and sometimes the way you talk sometimes is not, can you maybe curtail it? Is there a way you can, if you try to make the person see that you're trying to make him or her better, the person would love what you're saying. These things are important, right? So don't pretend. You don't have to be you don't have to be with someone you have to pretend. All this what do ladies call this thing? waist trainer, makeup you wear every time you go out on dates. If you have a big tummy, let them see it. I'm being serious. If you have a big tummy, don't suck it in. Your behind is flat, don't wear, I don't know what you call this thing, don't wear something else to make it come out, because eventually you can't wear those things forever. You can't get waist trainer all the days of your life. So eventually when you get married, that's how you be wearing waist trainer when you want to sleep. No, eventually it will come out. So if the person is not comfortable with it right now, so there are two things. They might see something they're not comfortable with and they want to help you work on it, not for themselves, right? They show you the reason why, the both of you agree that there's a need for this thing to be worked on. Fine, you can work on it, right? But there are some, we'll get to expectations on one of our subsequent videos, right? You must also understand that you can't change everything. There are certain things that are given. So be as real with your spouse or your partner, your friend, as you be as real with yourself. Be as real as you be with your partner as you will with yourself. Communicate your weaknesses. If there are things you don't like, don't say, because this season we are just getting to know each other, I won't talk about it. No, don't do that. Because when the relationship is built on falsehood, eventually, falsehood is not meant to stay for long. Eventually it would the power will be lost, right? It's like makeup. Yeah, falsehood is like makeup. Everybody sees your nose. There's a way you can do my nose now. My nose will be like this. Guy, I love my nose the way it is, but I'm just using that as an example, right? So there's a way I can make up now. My nose will be like this. When you see my nose, you say, his nose is, I don't know, this is not pointed again, right? But you say his nose is like this. If rain falls or I sweat, you will see the truth. That's how falsehood is. So when you live your life on pretense, you can't sustain it for so long. Eventually, who you are would manifest, and it is when it manifests after the person has gotten used to the false version of you, it becomes an issue, right? Misunderstanding now breaks out, right? This is not who I thought you were, but you've been that way all along. So be the same way you will be comfortable with flaunting your strengths, right, around someone, especially someone you've told yourself you want to spend the rest of your life with. The same way you'll be comfortable with flaunting your strength, be comfortable to communicate your weakness also. I don't believe that when you see somebody who is great, someone who is awesome, right, that they don't have weaknesses, because I do, right? I'm an awesome guy to the glory of God, right? I have all my good side. But if you spend time with me, you'll find out I also have my weaknesses. So if I understand that I have weaknesses, I should also expect it in others. So that helps you, that even before they offend you, you already know they will do that. So I think it's important for every relationship, especially when you just start your new shoe season. Everybody is just laughing, everybody is jovial, everybody is cracking jokes. Please also tell them. I always tell people, I say, as beautiful as this moment is, we're just laughing, we're playing, please also know that I will offend you. It's normal. Right? And sometimes offense doesn't mean that the other person is wrong. It might be that your perspective to what the person is doing is what is skewed, right? So communication would help. So the first thing that causes a lot of misunderstandings after you've gotten your hair, so after you've gotten married, is because you've gone past your new shoe season. You are now in that season where you want to be vulnerable, you want to be yourself, because you are done pretending. The second reason is not a bad thing, right? It could just be that you people see things differently. Listen, it's unrealistic for you to expect that someone who was raised from a different family, someone who had a different upbringing, somebody who probably has a different perspective to life. Sometimes you people are not in the same country, sometimes you people are not in the same city, sometimes you're from different ethnic groups. For you to think that you guys would have the same perspective to life, it's unreal. Even with your family members, the ones you grew up with in the same house, you still disagree on things. right? So when you make it about it is my perspective that is right, it becomes an issue. You're building a new home, a new relationship. You can take the previous knowledge of how your home was run into there, but don't hold on to it tightly, because you guys would eventually make adjustments. Either you make adjustments, or the person sees that what he or she what you have is the best, and they decide to ditch theirs completely, right? For yours. But it's important you know these things. Very, very important. So don't have that unrealistic expectation where you think, we're just going to blend. Especially when you're in church and the brother or the sister is speaking in tongues, she's leading worship, speaking in tongues everywhere. Their tongues are tongues of fire. If you will see the other side, we are humans. The same thing happens sometimes when I see people around ministers or people they look up to, and they see their weakness and they say, have you seen the way he behaved? What were you expecting? You thought who he is on the altar, right? That's why sometimes it's easy for people to honor people from afar, but they can't sustain honor when they get close. Why? Because all of a sudden now they're exposed to their weakness. When you see people, especially if you're in a church setting, when you see your pastor on the altar, preaching, pouring fire everywhere, he will do, everybody falls down, he will take his suit and wipe you, will scatter the chair. You would think he doesn't have a weakness. It's a lie. When you get close, everybody, just as some people, their weaknesses are more out there, for some persons is more hidden, right? But everybody has theirs. So when you get close to people, so it's the same thing that happens in relationship, like I was saying, right? Sometimes it's perspective. It's just perspective. You believe toothpaste, right? Your paste should be pressed from here, from down here up. I believe I belong to that school of thought, because that's how my dad raised me. Yeah, right? So I believe when you want to use your paste, press it from down up. For somebody else, paste is paste. It's toothpaste. Press it anywhere. Right? I mean, at the end of the day, you think about it, what is the rationale behind always making sure you press it from the down so that none will waste? But they are all still in the tube. For some other person, just press it from anywhere. You will say, let it be organized also, right? So, who is wrong in this transaction, in this communication? Nobody is wrong. The one who thinks pressing it from down up is right, the one who thinks pressing it from the middle or from anywhere is the right way is also right. So, now you want to build a home. How do you do it? If it causes too much issues, two of you get two different toothpaste. You press your own from where you want to press it. I press my own from where I want to press it, right? If I really don't think that's the best way to live, right? On the other hand, that's why I said if it's causing too much issues. On the other hand, you can continue using the same toothpaste when you come to press. When if you are the one that presses from the middle, you come press. When your partner comes to press, the person presses from down up. Sometimes when you do that thing consistently, the person will get the point. Sometimes, right? At other times, it's just you that just has to adjust your mindset, because really there's nothing wrong in what is happening. So who is wrong? So most times, what causes issues in relationships are not right and wrong things. Sometimes, right? It's just an issue of, this was how I was raised, this is my perspective to life, this is how I'm used to doing stuff, and actually in that transaction, nobody is wrong. So how do you fix it? Now, when we recently got married, I was speaking to the president of Easy Concept, right? Mr. Easy T. That man is someone, whenever I get around him, I just want to shut up and listen, because there's a bank of knowledge, right? Wisdom that exudes from him. So we're talking, and it's just a very brief, when you get married, everybody's advising you, but their key advice, right, that I received in that season that I can't forget, and his is one of them. He said, the essence of misunderstanding is to understand each other better. He probably said that thing in passing and went on to other things, but I held on to it. So every time I have a misunderstanding with my wife, I didn't say fight. Yeah, right? Every time I have a misunderstanding with my wife, what comes to my head is, okay, we have this misunderstanding. It means we're seeing this thing differently, right? What that misunderstanding is showing to you, it's not showing you that there's a problem with your spouse. What the misunderstanding is showing you is that there's a subject matter the both of you do not agree on, and because you're building a union, you need to fix it. So what do? We sit down and talk about it, right? That's the way. If you shout about it, everybody, nobody wins an argument. Yeah, that's why if somebody goes to court, he loses the case at the lower court, he goes to the higher court, goes to appeal court, goes to Supreme Court. He will keep on. If there's another court after Supreme Court, he will go. Why? Because it was an argument. Everybody thinks they are right when it's an argument. So the way to fix this thing is not by arguing, having a back and forth. No. First and foremost, convince the person that, because listen, sometimes you need to know what you're up against. Something I was taught by my dad. Think about it. Sometimes we don't see the extent of what we're doing. If I was taught by my dad that pressing paste from down up is the right way. If you come to tell me that thing is wrong, you're not just telling me that what I'm doing is wrong, you are telling me that my dad is wrong. And nobody wants to hear that. My dad is late, but you don't try it, right? You don't try it. Tell me your dad was wrong. No, we'll have issues, because you shouldn't go there, right? So if there's something he taught me that I would have to change, you have to present it in such a way that you don't invalidate what he said. These things are important. That's why there's a skill with communication. There's a skill, right? Maybe one of these days we'll talk about that also. There's a skill when you want to communicate something. You don't just come and make the person feel like you're wrong, you beat the person down. You won't get anything valuable from that conversation. So communicate. Let the person understand you don't have an issue with the person. Let the person understand the person is not wrong. It's just you see things differently, but because you are building a union, you have to agree. So how do we agree? Sometimes it's compromise, right? Sometimes it's just compromise. Sometimes all you have to do is let go of 30% of what you believe. The other person lets go of their 70, and you agree with 100, right? So these things are important. So I've explained to us why we have misunderstandings in union. I've explained to us how to deal with it. Communicate, and don't make it a confrontation. Don't accuse the person. Communicate. And thirdly, we explained to you the benefits of misunderstanding. It helps you understand each other better. So every time you have misunderstanding, rejoice in your heart, right? Because the earlier that issue is trashed out, the better it is for you. And don't let an issue slide that you have not had communication about. Because if you let it slide because you want to maintain peace, it will come up again. Every time I do something wrong and I have a conversation with my wife, she does that also, right? One of the first things that comes out of my mouth is, what did I do? Now, that question can be very frustrating, especially when she feels like this thing you did is conspicuous, right? It's evident, right? It can be very like, don't you know what you did? Right? I'm not saying that's how she responds, but I'm saying for me, that's how. I'm like, why are you asking me? Don't you know what you did? You see my eyes, right? But my point is, the reason why I asked that question, and the reason why she would ask that question also, is because I don't want to assume, right? I don't want to assume I know what it is, because if I assume I know what it is and I avoid what my assumption has produced, there's every likelihood that my estimation of the event and what I thought I did wrong will be different, right? And I mean, like I already explained, if you react with me for pressing paste from down, as far as I'm concerned, doing this is the right thing to do, right? Taking my paste from down up is the right thing to do. So what do we communicate? Okay, why do you hold this belief? The person says this, you say, okay, you have a conversation. How do we go about it, right? So whatever you put now and decide on would not be the approach to use, right? That's why in most cases people will tell you, one of the most outstanding advice, right, that I had when we got married was from a father in the faith, and he told us, he said, your relationship is unique, your marriage is unique. What worked for me may not work for you. You guys find out what works for each other, study each other well, and on the basis of your findings, build your marriage. So that's why basically, if you check everything we've been talking about, they are all principles and they are things that affects everybody, right? Training, upbringing, patterns, ideologies, these things happen to everybody. So find out what works for you. Arriving at a conclusion of what to do should always be something that is mutually agreed on. If after you had a misunderstanding, the both of you can't arrive at a conclusion, leave that issue pending, right? At other times, if it lingers, sometimes you could have somebody or a few persons that are authority figures in your union that you say, okay, see this, we are not able to arrive at the conclusion on this matter, we bring it to you, right, to help us decide. Then the person helps you people reach a conclusion and you people run with it, right? So that's why in most cases there are no two relationships, unions that are the same. You have to find out what works for you. So don't be afraid of misunderstandings, right? If you're beginning to have it now that you guys are now maybe married or courting and all of that, don't be afraid of it. It's normal. You people are adjusting to each other, trying to know each other better and all of that. So it will come with the job. So every time you see a misunderstanding, see it as an opportunity to understand each other better, and not the misunderstanding is not there to tear the union apart. It is there to help you people understand what works and what doesn't work. All right, thank you for watching.